Lockbox, Chapter 25. The next day arrived cloudy with the hint of snow in the air. It was cold outside, and blustery wind blew strong, whistling its fury. Donaldson pulled into the driveway with his black Ford Focus behind Sarah's green Volvo. The heavy-set Donaldson climbed out of his car and made his way past the white picket fence, Jasmine's dormant garden plot, and up the front door of the trailer home. Sarah watched Donaldson out her window. When he arrived at the door, she hurried to pull it open as soon as he began to knock. "Come in," she insisted anxiously. Donaldson entered without a word. He wordlessly followed Sarah into the interior of the trailer until they stood in the center of the living room. Sarah wasted little time getting to the point of her summons. Standing there in the middle of the living room, she dove right in. "Tell me about your lucid dreamers group. Tell me everything." Donaldson considered Sarah. His height and weight outmatched her own. She seemed so small next to him. He had come, although he thought her forceful demand for him to come rude. He heartily chuckled in his usual jolly way at Sarah's anxious opening gambit. "You are quite filled with commands," he chuckled. His childlike laugh, unobtrusive green eyes, and small lips absorbed by his big cheeks belied Donaldson's dismissive comeback. "My looks can be deceiving," he was saying as he took off his large black coat. He handed it to Sarah. "Besides this command, I take it you made more useful discoveries about the elder? That's why you've called me here so urgently?" "Okay, okay," said Sarah. "I admit my approach to getting you over here lacked subtlety." "Lacked subtlety, indeed." Donaldson walked over to the lone black chair facing the couch and across from the recliner and plopped himself down in it. "But I came. Was I timely enough?" He chuckled. "Do you have any tea?" Sarah considered Donaldson's condescending attitude. She hesitated, then she surrendered. "Yes, give me a moment." "Salted caramel," tasted Donaldson after Sarah handed him his white mug of tea. He sniffed the warm aroma. "Sweet." Sarah took a seat on the couch directly opposite and close to Donaldson. She could have been on the far end of a long black leather couch, but she wanted to be close to her boss. This man was paying her an inexplicable $65,000 wage to discover the difference between what he called the elder and the Apostle John. And now that she had met John the Age in her dreams, Sarah's purpose had become immeasurably different in the last weeks. The importance of money had begun to dissipate. Sure, she'll take the money, but now she had other more pressing reasons for the human archaeology she found herself engaged in. Events began to overrule Donaldson's motives. Sarah wondered what he truly wanted. She needed more clarity from him. Self-discovery took on more and more importance as well. It was this urgency that forced Sarah's hand. She had said to Donaldson, "You are going to tell me about your lucid dreamers group." Donaldson sipped his coffee. "You've gotten that far?" "You anticipated I would?" "Of course." "Of course. If you did any serious digging, you were bound to recover information about our little clique. And you know about my mother's lockbox then, the contents of it." Donaldson shook his head and set his cup of tea on the TV dinner tray next to his chair. "Truly, no. I knew nothing about Jasmine's lockbox. Until now." Sarah took a deep breath. She absorbed Donaldson's assertion of ignorance about the lockbox. "Did my mother attend your lucid dreamers group?" "She did," confirmed Donaldson. He folded his fat hands in front of his chest. "I'm surprised she kept that part from you." It was no big secret the group existed. Another secret part of Jasmine's life confirmed. It hit Sara hard. What else lurked in the shadows between herself and her mother? Jasmine had always been so emphatic about there being no secrets between them. Sara had believed her mother, believed no meaningful life events escaped their common sharing. Maybe the lockbox was her mother's way of atoning, thought Sara. Why did she keep this group a secret? The question exposed Sara's pain. It's not a betrayal, if that is what you are thinking, returned Donaldson. Your mother gave you the best upbringing she knew how, and she did it honestly. She loved you, no doubt about it. And that you grew up thinking you and Jasmine shared everything is a testament to her care and love. I don't see how that is so at the moment, moaned Sara. No, I suppose not. Donaldson calmly took up his tea again, sipped some, its liquid still warm and its salted caramel aroma still potent. You want to know what the lucid dreamers group is? Taking another swallow of his tea as Sara patiently looked on. We each discovered in our own way that we had this ability to dream lucidly. Many of us took part in a psychological experiment being performed at the University of Boulder's psychology department. The graduate students helped us understand ourselves. That showed us it wasn't an uncommon thing to be a lucid dreamer, that it was a learnable ability for some. There existed a difference with our group of lucid dreamers, however. Our group of dreamers each possessed an unusual object that seemed to trigger our dreams. The researchers thought we should obtain, each of us, an identical object, and as a group to continue to share our experiences on our own once the experiments by the university had concluded. This we did. We obtained identical lockboxes and refined the purpose of our lucid dreamers group. Donaldson paused. Sara took this in. For some reason, she didn't quite feel Donaldson was being honest. Sara kept her eyes down on her teacup, which she had barely touched. Her mind needed this explanation, however. The lockbox, then, was my mother's trigger? And she wasn't the only one with a lockbox? Yes, that is so. Slow realization sunk into Sara. And now it's become my trigger. I would be careful about putting too much focus on this term trigger. It says a lot and it says very little. In the Lucid Dreamers group, we have given much attention to the question of the trigger theory. Our results have been inconclusive. What does it mean to dream in a lucid way? Ah, congratulated Donaldson on Sara's question. That is the important question. In modern psychological theory, there is a subfield of onreology. In this field of the science, a lucid dream is a type of dream where the dreamer realizes that he or she is dreaming during their dream. During a lucid dream, the dreamer may gain some amount of volitional control over the dream characters, narrative, or environment. That's the scientific definition. Metaphysically, Sara cut him off. I talked with Father Seraphim about this idea. Excellent, chuckled Donaldson. Father Seraphim said metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that examines the basic structure of reality, of existences, and the nature of existences, said Sara excitedly. He was explaining my dreams and visions, and while explaining it, he said, what I experienced involved two different natures, one ephemerally remembered, and the other living, a present reality of the here and now. Sara reflected quietly, thinking about what Father Seraphim had explained to her. He even said it can also be something which is to come later, a future nature or vision of it. He said, this is an example of metaphysics. He called it the most abstract branch of philosophy and theology, dealing with the first principles of existence, including concepts like being, causality, Substance, time, and space. Sara kept looking at Donaldson, seeing if he was tracking along with her. She continued, Mother Seraphim said, metaphysics is what lies behind all realities, all natures, the organizing and systematizing truths discovered by science. To me, it sounds very much akin to quantum entanglement. When Sara finished, Donaldson looked down into his mug of tea. It's grown cold. Cold tea is the worst, moving restlessly in his chair. Don't like sitting for long periods either. He paused again. Then, slowly standing up, he said, You have made great progress. I'm impressed. Your connecting of the concepts of quantum physics and metaphysics I find intriguing as well. Sara stood up with him. Your puzzle is coming along just fine, Sara. I suspect, though, it's too soon for you to tell me the difference between the elder and the Apostle John. No, I need more there. Indeed. Can I get my coat? It's cold out. Of course. Sara left and returned, helping Donaldson with his coat. I will depart with this. I wouldn't advise you to join our Lucid Dreamers group. Not yet. You do not yet have control. Control of what? Your ability to lucid dream, of course. When you have reached that stage, then you could potentially be ready to join our group. Jasmine had strict control over her ability. You have inherited the ability from her, it seems to me. It's useful to know. So Mom wasn't an unwary victim? No, Jasmine was far from a victim. And neither are you a victim. You are sure about that? Sara interjected. She saw Donaldson's eyebrows lift in amusement at her doubt. What do I do now? Donaldson started walking to the front door. He opened it to be greeted with a dusting of light snow falling from the gray clouds. Continue what you are doing. Discover who Jasmine really was, and who you might be. I will draw down another payment for you. I still would like you to figure out this historic difference between the elder and John. Now that you know you are a lucid dreamer and what it could mean metaphysically, you need to explore this quantum metaphysics. Okay, answered Sara. My thoughts exactly. One final thing. You might want to research this lockbox. Find out, if you can, where your mother obtained it. It might be a trigger for the nature of your lucid dreams. It might not. As I told you, our group's investigations find the evidence inconclusive. Lockbox, Chapter 26. Sara at last had something she could work with. She had a direction. She would work on controlling all the things she could in her dreams or visions. As far as she could tell, Donaldson had coined a new term for her, quantum metaphysics. Would that be the distinction that would help her obtain the control over her dreams and visions which Donaldson urged her to gain? While the seraphim had warned her that she would not be able to control her visions, if dreams and visions operated at the quantum level, Sara thought it made sense that these would in fact form a kind of multiverse. Einstein thought quantum entanglement was impossible, but modern science has shown entanglement was real. Metaphysics said the same thing. Existence can exist of multiple natures. Whereas quantum physics may speak of universes, metaphysics spoke of what Father Seraphim called natures. Sara thought the concept of place, that is, space and time, had materiality issues. Start controlling her dreams at a minuscule level of place, she thought. And the place she knew already, over which she seemed to have some effective control, was the proximity of the lockbox to herself. If it were indeed the trigger for her lucid dreams of Aristian Prochorus, John the Age, and the places of the ancient Roman world, then going in and coming out might be in Sarah's power. She had already been doing that just by experience, but now she had a scientific reason, quantum and metaphysical. The information Donaldson provided promised deliberation, mastery of the lucid dreaming skill. Does a lockbox trigger her dreams, or did it simply function as a tool of some kind? In Sarah's mind, the lockbox took on the features of a small quantum computer. All the lucid dreamers in Donaldson's group had one of these multiverse lockboxes. Why? How did it work? Donaldson had been gone some time when Sarah dressed again in her Roman stola. She took out the lockbox from her mother's dresser drawer and went back into her bedroom. She climbed into bed. It was late now, and she felt the sleep bug hitting her. All these actions she checked off deliberately as one in complete experimental control. She had a pouch, and in her pouch, which she slung over her shoulder, she placed a notepad and a pen. Sarah would test if she could control the use of these items in her dreams. Could she keep a written record of her experience? She no longer had any trepidation about falling into the lucid dreamer state without any witnesses present. Once in her bed, in her covers, she fell into a deep sleep. In no time at all, she had passed into REM sleep, her eyes twitching behind her Asian-shaped eyelids. Her thoughts slowed back to Ephesus. She arrived instantly. She found herself in the company of muscular young Aristian, his male presence emphatic and attractive. Realizing where she had arrived, the question on her mind leaped to clarity. The phrase, "One coming after me will baptize you with the life-giving spirit," needed to be explained. What did the Baptist mean by that? Sarah was walking with Aristian, passing all the white marble columns, making their way over the stone streets. Myriad of temples to the various gods in the red-tiled rooftops dominated the city. Sarah asked Aristian, "Tell me about this life-giving spirit. This idea is totally unfamiliar to me." They were going uphill at this point, walking under a colonnade with a line of shiny columns to her left. The streets bustled with people from all walks of ancient Ephesus life. Aristian responded, "You don't believe you are just flesh, blood, and bone, do you?" "Something like that," Sarah admitted. "Then you don't know your true condition." "I guess not. Tell me about it." "Your mother, Jasmine, came to know her true condition from John the Baptist and the other." "The other?" "The one who gave her the life-giving spirit." Sarah mused. "My mother often tried to get me to read the New Testament scriptures. I could never get past that arcane language." Aristian frowned. "The New Testament scriptures? What is that?" Sarah did not respond to his question. Of course, Aristian would have no idea about what the New Testament was. It would not be codified for another 225 years. Sarah realized she herself had but a cursory idea as to what lay in the New Testament. Although she had learned the term in her research, her mother had used the term a few times describing the Bible. As they walked along, Sarah turned to admiring the young Aristian with his strong physical presence, dressed in his thin brown tunic held loosely around his muscular body by a single white sash. She found him desirable and attractive. His bushy nut brown hair, broad protruding jaw, and deep-set dancing blue eyes continued to emanate a seriousness to Sarah, however, and she felt a slight tinge of shame at perceiving this historical personage of faith in an object-like fashion. His name only appeared in Papias' work, then recopied in the works of St. Irenaeus and Eusebius' History of the Church. Now she was walking with him in a quantum metaphysical reality, admiring the inexplicable conjured particles that made up the bright gleam of his eyes, that gave him a gaiety that brought to Sarah a sharp sense of reality. She felt overwhelmed by the nudging deep inside her to get control. This journey had to be about learning to control, not developing an attraction for a ghost from the past. It didn't matter how lustfully real Aristian seemed to her. He was a configuration from her subconscious. They walked on a short distance in silence. It was another clear high noon day, crisp and brightened by the ubiquitous sunshine. The landscape around Sara contained no dreamy vagaries. The hard cobbled Roman road, the many colorfully dressed ancient citizens of the Roman Empire all testified to the truth of her presence among them. Something told her she would not be able to control this part. In her mind's eye, she kept coming up with blanks as she tried to switch the scenery. The city of Ephesus stubbornly remained. Aristian stubbornly remained. She tried to take herself back to John the Baptist by the flowing river, but here too her thought focus had no success. She remained in Ephesus. Sara knew she was dreaming or having a vision, yet something prevented her from altering the content of this experience. They had arrived at a location she was not familiar with. Sara gazed around the unfamiliar terrain, taking in the stone pillars and tombs. Part of this location did look like she's been here before with its small stone shops that line the road. The rest, however, she failed to recognize. Aristian pointed in the direction of one of the tombs. See, that tomb over there? That is where you will find the answer to your question. What question? Your question, what is the life-giving spirit? Sara glanced around the area, taking in the bustling road with its myriads of horse-drawn carts, little children running about in laughter, colorful tunic-clothed men and women. There is something else. I feel it, but I'm not sure what it is. The answer to your question may help you understand this something. He pointed in the direction of the tomb. Shall we? Lockbox, Chapter 27. Aristian pointed to a tomb that lay at the end of a cobblestone path in front of them. Each of the finely fitted gray stones leading to the tomb, octagon in shape, seemed to glitter as if wet. Aristian and Sara moved off the main road leading into Ephesus, and they walked up the path. They were surrounded by a crowded circle of tombs. The cobblestones cut a path through them. The tomb they approached stood in the center of this circle. It was prominently situated. Sara could tell this had to be one of the higher class structures to the dead. Inside all the tombs, small or large, sat niches for a myriad of urns containing the bone remains of once vibrant living humans. On the left and right of Sara, as she walked side by side with Aristian, she took stock of the many red stone tombs, the marble arches, the mosaic images of life carved and painted on the ground in front of the entrance to these tombs on their flanks. As they progressed deeper into the cemetery, Sara's dream was morphing. She sensed it. At last, the cobblestone path branched off to the left and to the right, but in front of them stood the rectangular red stone construction and its low archway leading inside the tomb. Here it is, pointed Aristian. You will go inside. Sara hesitated. Wait, you're not coming? She gazed into the tomb's darkness. It is best if you go alone. I don't understand. You will. Aristian took Sara by the hand. We can't do it for you. This is your task. John the Aged has made it very clear to both me and Prochorus. This only will work as your lived experience. And there are other limitations too. Sara was curious. What other limitations? He pointed to the tomb's entrance. Your answers await you. He paused. Don't worry, I'll be here when you return, waiting. Sara took a deep breath and she turned. She looked back at Aristian. She sighed and started forward. Aristian called after her, remember, as you pass the entrance, Chokhmah. Sara nodded. She approached cautiously, leaving the cobblestone path. Her sandal crunched the abundant grass under her feet. Her stola and the tunic underneath felt too tight. She took a deep breath of air, holding it as her hand touched the archway entrance. Everything felt so real, even though she understood herself to be in the midst of a quantum metaphysical entanglement, a combined vision and dream. Donaldson called her a lucid dreamer. She had never heard of the term before, but what he described fit everything Sara found herself sharing. He inserted Jasmine had this ability too, and passed it on to Sara as if through her genes. Was that an entanglement? Sara accepted Donaldson's assertion, acknowledged this new force in her life. Father Seraphim had prepared her for another truth too. The visions she participated in came from an external power to her subconscious, and as a result, she would have no control. The lack of authority over her visions would have made Sara flee from this exposure to realms Einstein would have described as a kind of magic. The science of materialistic space and time would have emphatically declared what she was doing had to be a delusion. Now, however, mere fear no longer deterred her from her goal to know more of Jasmine's transformation. Inside, she heard the voice that wanted her to wake herself up. She ignored that voice. She kept going. There was an inscription above the entryway, but she couldn't read it because it was in Latin. More evidence of reality. She had never learned Latin. How could she translate it? This power of realism through dreaming, configuration from pieces of random matter into the energy of the living, gave witness to a capacity of mind far beyond anything Sara could imagine. For her, this meant more evidence of the truth of metaphysical science, the logic of essence and being. Looking back, she could still see glimpses of Aristian's presence. She could tell he continued to gesture her forward. His waving muscular arms gave her encouragement. No turning back, she thought. She stepped into the darkness of the tomb, saying as she pierced the opaqueness beyond the tomb's opening, Chokma. Inside the tomb, where light of life fled, Sara saw the murky niches. Within these barely visible crevices sat urns and the ossuaries. Arches of stone were set around the dimly lit opening. Few ossuaries filled these niches. The stone ossuary boxes held either the bones or the ashes of the dead. Each niche around their arched tops were painted in gold and red. In addition, they had scenes from Roman life. Sara could not form in any fashion from her own memories these scenes. No matter how deep into the vault of her mind her subconscious dug, she would have no mental means to conjure these images in a dream. That convinced her even more that the tiny quantum particles were at work at a level too minute for her to perceive. Real life, as far as she understood real, was being conjured. She knew the Romans had many gods back then, and perhaps many of these painted scenes might be of their gods. She could tell several scenes depicted ordinary life. The nature of the reality around her was shifting, and it did not take long for Sara to notice her hand fluctuating. It seemed to be there one moment and absent the next. The worrisome phenomenon stopped her in her tracks, halting her progress in front of one of the niches with a large urn. She went to touch it, and her hand just passed through it. A dream transition? She calmly whispered the hypothesis. When she examined her surroundings, she discovered the walls had grown darker, less present. Something is different here. Sarah craned her neck so she could try to catch a glimpse of the ceiling above her, and to her wonder, she thought she could see a night sky above her. Brilliantly glowing stars dotted the dark heavens. When she looked down again, she could see the stone transforming into fully green grass. The ground became soft and spongy under her feet. She kept moving forward. When she looked back, she saw only a deep, dark wall behind her. The urge to turn back grew stronger, but Sarah could see her pouch containing her pen and pad strapped around her shoulder. This gave her some comfort to move forward, and the security too began to fade away. She could no longer see the pouch, but strangely she could feel it. Curious, she reached for her side, and her hand passed through even her side. The revelation stunned Sarah. The pouch felt like it remained, and yet it had vanished. She felt like she had moved into the edge of sanity. What if she could not return? She turned around nervously, but only darkness greeted her view. She could not see the tomb's archway entrance at all. None of the Ephesus sunlight beckoned to her. She turned back around. "I'm committed," she whispered to herself. Standing in the soft breeze of the night, Sarah realized she had exited from one existence of time and space to another. This one had no buildings, no man-made structures of any kind. She also noticed, to her chagrin, she wore no clothes. Her toga outfit, too, had dematerialized. She was nude. She looked around frantically in the night darkness for some place to duck and cover. Then, as if on cue, a glimmer of yellow started to form around her. From head to foot, like a clothing of golden light, the brilliance dressed her. Her physical garment had been exchanged for one of light and yellow hue. "It's like an aura," she laughed in amusement. "I am truly Alice in Wonderland." "Okay." She almost called out to Aristian to get an explanation for what she was experiencing, but she knew instinctively he would not answer. He had stayed outside the Roman tomb. She was somewhere metaphysically different. She was alone. Lockbox, Chapter 28. "Wake up!" Rhonda shook Sarah hard. "Wake up!" Sarah's dark eyes flashed open. Before her stood her Puerto Rican friend. Rhonda's long blondish nut brown hair fell across her face as she bent over, staring down at the now awakened Sarah. When it dawned on Sarah she had been pulled back into her waking life, annoyance flashed through Sarah. "What have you done?" "You were lying here like someone stone dead," responded Rhonda defensively. "I was scared for you." Rhonda was wearing a red dress and black leggings. Her long black boots covered up most of the leggings. The hint of Spanish in Rhonda's voice did feel melodious in the moment, soothing Sarah's reflexive displeasure. "You woke me up at a bad time," Sarah complained in a more friendly tone. "Yeah, and how would I have known it was a bad moment?" retorted Rhonda. "Mira, your door was wide open." Sarah took that in for a moment, staring up at her best friend. "I left the door wide open?" "I probably saved your ass," reinforced Rhonda, feeling she had successfully parried her friend's complaint. "If Donaldson hadn't asked me to stop by, I might be looking at one assaulted or dead beautiful Asian American. Listen, Lafayette is a safe place, generally, but it's not paradise. Bad stuff happens." Adjusting her posture to a sitting position, Sarah scratched her black hair, thinking. Rhonda's explanation seemed entirely on point, and Donaldson had sent her. He knew about Sarah's lucid dreaming. He knew that she had lost track of her actions because of the dreams, and he had experiences like hers. It would be natural for him to have some concern, after all. He set Sara on this path to discover what she could about the elder. He had told her lucid dreamers were at a risk of not being able to tell what is real and what is illusion, a byproduct of constantly shifting through different dream natures. Sara realized her own potential danger. Rhonda's sudden interference now seemed like a very good thing, helping Sara keep things real. Thanks for stopping by, Sara conceded. I've been having a hard time lately, losing track of where I am and what I've been doing. Donaldson warned me. She sat on the couch next to Sara. Have you gone back to see Father Seraphim? No, I haven't had a reason to lately, though he has been very helpful. Come on, let's get some coffee, and then I need to go do some window shopping. You can join me. Sara decided to go along with Rhonda's suggestion. She got up and took a quick shower. She dressed in black slacks and turtleneck sweater and put on her black shoes with their white trimming soles. It was a cold fall day, but the sky was vacant of clouds. The air hit her flesh crisply, pushed along by a forceful Colorado wind. The windy gust at times was capable of shoving the two off their feet, but they endured it all the way to Angelica's coffee shop. At Lafayette's coffee and tea shop, they picked up two coffees. Then they began their walk along Main Street in Old Town Lafayette. All the shops here were locally run. The quaint town, with its vintage homes, had a very family-themed feel, with children playing outdoors at a couple breakfast places. There were couples walking their dog or dog, and delivery men were completing their early morning rounds. Lafayette struck Sara as a postcard city. This is where her mother settled down, bought the trailer home, and raised Sara. Had she had the money, Jasmine would tell her, she probably would have opened a Japanese-style restaurant in town. As Sara and Rhonda walked along in silence, Sara's mind stayed preoccupied with the dream vision she had been in before her friend snatched her back to her waking life. The essence and individuality of the location she had entered through the tomb loomed vividly in her mind. She could still recall the darkness in the tomb, the niches in which the urns and ossuaries within which lie the bones and ashes of the dead, and the ornately colored stone carved arches. Rhonda was talking, but Sara barely heard her. When Rhonda pointed out items in the glass windows she'd like to purchase, Sara acknowledged her absent-mindedly. Sara's mind stayed in the cavern of the dead, in the place that led to another location. Was location even the right word? Words she once took as having ordinary, everyday meaning in her waking life now struck her as quaint and inadequate. In her dream, that realm of transition between Ephesus and where she ended up defied locational definition. She had moved between realities. Sara felt confident Father Seraphim would relate to location in her vision or dream in metaphysical terms, essence, nature, reality, being, something which had a unique existence all its own. And Sara had in her own mind the theory of quantum entanglement. In the tombs, their painted scenes gave Sara depictions of ordinary life, a life she had never lived she could hold on to. She wildly thought, would she meet another of herself in one of these places of Einstein's space and time limitations? It seemed odd to make a dream an anchor to her sanity. Dreams and visions, according to Father Seraphim, had laws of their own. The law of their nature, the reality of their essence, is how Sara translated what she was discovering. Einstein would agree there as against the quantum physicists, but that was the dead Einstein. If he lived today, he might have had to surrender to the theory. The fluctuation of the materiality of her hand in that dark void had gone a long way to convincing Sara that quantum metaphysics was a thing. How in one context her pouch had physical form, and in the next context it had sensation without visibility. The pouch existed in both realms in different forms, entangled by identical particles, Sara would say. She replayed in her mind how she stopped in front of one of the niches with an urn and went to touch it, and her hand passed through the urn. Then she remembered Donaldson's last words to her. You might want to research this lockbox and find out, if you can, where your mother obtained it. It might be a trigger for the nature of your lucid dreams. It might not. As I told you, our group's investigation finds the evidence inconclusive. Father Seraphim had said to her, You are being gifted. You are also on a journey, and it's a deep one of discovery. We do not yet know what role your subconscious will play in all this, how much of the real you is being resistant, and we do not yet know where the visions are coming from and why they are coming. This is something only you can discover. Are you familiar with the prophet Joel? Hey, Rhonda's voice pierced through Sarah's thoughts. Look at that. Sarah pulled herself to attention. Together with Rhonda, Sarah peered into the display window of Diddy's vintage trinket shop. To her astonishment, before her eyes, sitting on the display counter in the window, a lockbox just like her own. Same white-purple color, the same rectangular shape, same edge contours with the rounded lid. OMG, shouted Sarah. She hurried into the shop. Rhonda excitedly followed. Breathlessly, Sarah dashed up to the counter, addressing Mr. Diddy. Where did you get that lockbox? The white and purple one? She pointed back towards the display, her pointing finger trembling. White-haired Diddy, probably in his 50s, gazed at Sarah. His gray eyes blinked at her agitation. What are you talking about? That box in the window display. Mr. Diddy came around the counter and walked over to the window display. Looking down at the lockbox, he smiled. He looked back at Sarah. You like it? Rhonda chimed in. Sarah has one just like it. Really? Mr. Diddy said, as if nonplussed. Well, you can buy this one. Give it as a gift to someone special. I'll sell it to you at half price. Never mind that, agitated Sarah. Did you sell my mother one of these? Do you make them? Mr. Diddy picked up the lockbox and maneuvered it in his hands. It's finely crafted. Don't make 'em like this anymore. Notice the fine edges and the rounded lid? He carried the lockbox over to the front counter as Sarah and Rhonda followed. Once behind the counter, he rummaged under the counter and brought out a silver key. Sarah's eyes widened. She felt shock and confusion and anger all at once. The lockbox presence in the store, the exact same look as Jasmine's bequest, felt like a belittlement. Sarah felt diminished. Surely her mother thought more of her daughter than to give her a common trinket as a memorial to her death. Then Mr. Diddy proceeded to unlock the lockbox, and as he moved to lift the lid, Sarah cried out, Don't! Don't, said Mr. Diddy, shocked. I don't want to see what's inside, answered Sarah, demanded. I must not. She absolutely did not want this hope of hers also vanquished. How could she continue her journey if this proves her sense of being special in her mother's eyes was also based on misinformation? Confused, Mr. Diddy relocked the lockbox and set it on the counter. I don't understand, Rhonda cut in. We're sorry, Mr. Diddy. Sarah's own lockbox has emotional value. Thank you for being thorough. Oh, okay. Mr. Diddy pressed his hands on the counter wide apart. So you have one already? Sarah said softly, apologetically. I was asking if you made these. Oh, no. These lockboxes are manufactured by a Japanese company. If I recall correctly, your mother is pure Japanese, no? That's right. Now remember, you are Sarah, her daughter. About a year or so ago, your mother stopped by and purchased a lockbox just like this one. She said it was a soul connection box. I guess yours is the soul she meant then. Sarah took a deep breath. She closed her eyes, saw an image of her mother, then opened them again. What is the name of the company in Japan? Mr. Diddy walked down the back of his counter, opened a drawer on the other end, and took out a piece of paper that looked like a receipt. He read it for a second, took a pencil, a piece of paper, and wrote something down on the paper. He came back to Sara and handed it to her. Sara looked at the company name, Tay Enterprises, if that's how you pronounce it. I wouldn't know. I believe it's a Christian company. That's what I recall your mother said. A rare thing in Japan. But I don't get these directly from Japan. Shipping costs would make them unaffordable for my customers. Where do you get them from? Asked Rhonda. There's a group in town called the Lucid Dreamers Group. I gather they purchase them from time to time. One of these makes its way to me, either because the person who owned it passed away or the owner just had no further use of theirs. Did your mother pass away? Sara stumbled back. The shock rendered her silent. When Rhonda realized Sara would not respond, she thanked Mr. Diddy, and they left the shop. Rhonda guided Sara back to the trailer as if her friend were deaf, mute, and blind. Lockbox, Chapter 29. Bumper-to-bumper traffic made the return drive to Sara's trailer painfully long. Rhonda kept looking over to Sara in the passenger seat. Her Asian American friend had the look of someone suffering from shell shock. Sara remained silent the entire drive. The discovery of Diddy's Vintage Trinket Shop, a little-known seller of used Japanese-produced lockboxes mysteriously named K Enterprises, blew Sara's mental circuits. She emotionally malfunctioned. It was as if Sara had suffered a Perimol seizure. Rhonda made it to Sara's trailer. She parked the car on the street outside Sara's trailer home and got out of the car on the driver's side. She walked over to the passenger side, opened the door, and grabbed Sara's tote bag. Sara was not moving. Rhonda pulled the keys out of the car's ignition. She stared at the zombie-like expression on Sara's face. Girl, you've got to get hold of yourself. Helping Sara out of the car, Rhonda closed the passenger side door. Keeping an eye on her seemingly comatose friend, Rhonda hurriedly locked the car. She then helped guide Sara up the walk to the trailer's entrance. Rhonda opened the door and took Sara inside. She helped Sara out of her clothes and guided her into bed. Rhonda wordlessly tucked the covers around Sara's body. Sighing at the end of all of this, Rhonda straightened up, looking down on her friend with pity. Girl, what is wrong with you? Sara's dark eyes were jacked wide open. Her breathing was shallow. Rhonda continued, I think you should call the whole thing off, dude. The money isn't worth it. When she turned to leave, Sara's hand shot out and grabbed her red dress, pulling Rhonda back. No, Rhonda, I'm okay. Well, you are able to talk. Good to see. You certainly aren't acting like you're okay. Rhonda turned back to her friend. Sara sighed. I know. I know. Something inside of me just turned off. I couldn't help it. How could I engage in conversation about what Mr. Diddy revealed to me? I was terrified that the lockbox was connected to deaths besides that of my mother's. Rhonda was incredulous. Why do you make such a leap? It's hard for me to believe the exact same lockbox would end up with his store from other lucid dreamers. You are making too much of the coincidence. Really? My mother left me a lockbox connected to a chain of lockboxes owned by members of the same group of which she was a member. How is that a coincidence? I admit it hardly seemed accidental on its face when you think about it. Rhonda, my mother was a member of a lucid dreamers group is engaged in some kind of evil ritual. That must be it. My mother got mixed up with a bunch of freaking cultists. Rhonda shook her head in denial. Mira, you are exaggerating. Being part of a crazy religious group doesn't match Jasmine's pattern. Well, sighed Sara, based on all the things I've uncovered to date, what I used to think fit my mother's pattern is turning out to be quite inaccurate. Donaldson was extremely coy about the group when I approached him about it, and odd things happened to him connected to this group as well. This entire elder business. You warned me not to go meet with him, and now here I am. Rhonda sat down on the bed next to Sara. I wouldn't assume so much from what Mr. Diddy told you. Mira, what he said revealed only that this group, lucid dreamers, whatever these lockboxes may look the same, it doesn't mean that they are the same. There's no obvious connection to your mother's lockbox other than its color and shape. You say there's no connection, but I know differently. I've been there. You know. You've seen me go into a lucid dream. Por favor, I seen you sit still as a log on a couch for a brief few minutes. I was having a lucid dream. I told you. You don't believe me? Girl, I think you are mourning still. I know my grandmother always talked about how she controlled her dreams. She was never a part of any group, and she never gave what she did a name. Can she go to the exact same spot in her dreams after waking up? Live out the next sequence of events? Do her dreams involve solid characters from the ancient past she can converse with about real things she can't control? Wow, I have no idea. What you described is grande loco. Yes, exactly. Sarah sat up. She had an idea. I'm going to get my lockbox. I'm going to dream. What are you talking about? Just stay right here. Sarah quickly climbed out of bed. She grabbed her Roman Stola outfit out of the closet and hurried into the bathroom. While dressing, she thought about all she knew now. She was visiting a real place, Ephesus, in her dreams. Her mother Jasmine had been there before her. Real people in history had told her so. John the Aged, Aristian, Prochorus. Father Seraphim had told her about the philosophy of metaphysics that concerned itself with existence, the nature of being. Donaldson had told her about John the Aged, the Elder, and her mother wanted her to have the lockbox to go on this journey with her. And Mr. Diddy had said her mother had described the purpose of the lockbox, that she saw it as a soul connection with her daughter. Finally, lucid dreaming was the real thing. Information about the ability was readily available in the literature of the psychological sciences, and it seemed to match Sarah's understanding of quantum entanglement. There was one huge difference with the lucid dreamers group. All those who were members of this local group had this ability on an exponential, inexplicable level, a level that seemingly exacted a fatal price. Why? Why such a fatal price for something ordinary people, admittedly low in numbers, do innately or can learn to do? Donaldson had told her despite its efforts, the lucid dreamers group had failed to determine conclusively that the lockbox induced their lucid dreamer capacity beyond the ordinary. Direct evidence may be inconclusive. The lockbox played a role in enhancing lucid dreamers' powers. As far as Sarah was concerned, all the evidence seemed to point circumstantially to the idea that her mother and her gang of dreamers had broken through some kind of limitation. When Sarah had finished getting outfitted with her stola, she went into her mother's room and put on some gloves. She came back in her room, opening the tote bag, and stared down at the silent lockbox. It never did anything. It never flashed, banged, fluctuated, undulated, glowed, nothing. Yet supposedly it acted as an inducer or conduit. Which was it? You're going to tell me your secret, little lockbox, one way or another. She looked over at the silver key. She reached for it, then pulled her hand back. Not yet. She closed the tote bag and stared at Rhonda. Rhonda rolled her eyes. OMG, girl. What is this get up? You're going to help me conduct an experiment. What kind of experiment? An early Halloween party or something? Where's my outfit? I'm going to take a nap, and you are going to watch me. Not again. You are going to take another nap now? I'm going to watch you nap all over again? Affirmative, Sara nodded. She checked her pouch to make sure her notepad was inside and her pens. Then she climbed into bed. You are my variable. I need you to record everything you see when I am sleeping. You know what REM sleep is? See, you'll say. Use your cell phone and record any kind of movement on my part, anything that seems odd or out of the ordinary. How do I know what is ordinary for you when you sleep? We don't share a bed. Don't be silly, Rhonda. I'm serious. Rhonda helped pull the sheets and cover over her friend. Mira, you are so demanding. I can't stay long. Comprendes? Wake me after 1 hour. Deal. Sara took off her gloves as she lay the lockbox next to her. Then she closed her eyes. She whispered to Rhonda, Don't leave me for a second. It's not dangerous. There's nothing to be afraid of. Then she felt silent. Rhonda watched Sara, feeling totally like the whole thing was nuts. In a short time, Rhonda could tell Sara had drifted off to sleep.